So with NeQter, we have all of these tools in our platform, but one of the key areas that a lot of people use us for is the Security Information Event Management, or SIEM tool. Some people call it SIEM. So that's where we'll start. In terms of SIEM, we're able to pull logs one of three ways. First most being agents. So anything with an operating system, Windows, Linux, Mac, we can grab those logs via an agent. The next method is going to be Syslog. So we can pull in Syslog or secure Syslog right into NeQter. And then lastly, we have a few different APIs that we can leverage, namely Google Workspace as well as Microsoft 365, commercial, GCC, and GCC High. So we can pull all of those in. So we'll start off on the SIEM talking about agents. So getting around NeQter, we have this nav bar on the left. It can be collapsed with icons, or we can expand it out and have the different names here, which is how I personally like to go about it. So we're going to travel to hosts, where we can look a little bit more on what we can pull from an agent standpoint. So hosts inventory is going to include all types of inventoried hosts pulling into NeQter, agents, Syslog, or discovered hosts, and we'll get into that a bit later with the vulnerability scanner. So from a configuration standpoint, we'll navigate hosts, agents here, and this is where we can configure different groups to have different configuration settings of different log types that we would like to pull from different sources. Case in point, we create a new group. There's a few different things that we can turn on. Because a lot of people leverage Windows, I'll start off with Windows Event IDs, which is very important when it comes to logging. So Windows logs here. If we turn this on, we can select different event IDs. Now, one of the things with NeQter is there's hundreds of different event IDs listed out here. If we expand a certain category, like account management, they're all listed out right here, and we can see the number and short description. So we can add, if we just wanted to add one, we can select that. We can add many at the same time, of course. Because we have the numbers and the description, we can also keyword search at the top here. So say we wanted to find that 4723. Well, we just type in here, list it out right there. Similarly, an attempt was made to change an account's password. If we wanted to just keyword search password or, attempt and password, well, it's going to find exactly what we want. So that is all well and good if you know what you're looking for. If you would like recommendations, we have some different defaults that you can turn on. So we're going to click on defaults here, and here's the list. These defaults are tied in, or rather, we referenced a Microsoft article that described here are the recommended event IDs to push into Azure Sentinel. So we said, well, that makes sense, and Microsoft is advocating for it. So we copied the recommendations, including Active Directory monitoring. So if you have a domain controller on-prem or just internally in your environment, you can select that Active Directory monitoring default. So for example, if we apply that, it's going to turn on a bunch. We hit show selected event IDs here. We have a large wall of dozens upon dozens of different event IDs. If we go back to choose event IDs, the other defaults that we have include file monitoring. So if you have a file server and you want to track user access or changes or modifications or deletions or whatever they're doing with files or folders or directories that you're auditing, we can add that. So we hit apply. That's just going to be a subset. That's just going to be a handful right there. Another one that's very important, choose event IDs, defaults, PC monitoring. So this is going to be local PC monitoring. So any of your desktops, laptops, most importantly, maybe you're got a smaller environment that may not have on-prem AD, or rather, even if you would like to track local event IDs that don't propagate to Active Directory or Azure Active Directory, we like to turn those on. So apply, save, those get listed out here. Now, the only one that is kind of a NeQter designation is these are recommended, but we put them in their own group and labeled it high volume events because that's exactly what they are. They generate a lot of volume. The things that get turned on involve object access, which is important for file auditing, of course, but outside of that, any object access or these two culprits right here, new process has been created or process has been exited. You can imagine how many processes are created and exited. So that creates a lot of traffic, but we just put that in as a recommendation, but user beware, essentially. So that's how we select those different defaults, or you can choose your own, or if we scroll to the bottom here, we can also add custom event IDs if we'd like to. So that's number one in terms of logs that we can pull in. Now, a few things to mention about the agent. Well, number one is how it's deployed. So when it comes to Windows, there is a MSI installer that we have. Most typically, it gets deployed out via an Active Directory or Azure Group Policy Object or GPO. Now, of course, you can use Intune or really whatever method that you use to deploy software, you can deploy NeQter agent the same way. A couple other things with the agents. They will read what is already there. So if you already have logs, 4 or 6 weeks worth of logs on a server, for example, well, we're going to read that and pull that in. Another thing with the agent is it is read-only. The agents are not being configured to manipulate or alter any of your auditing settings on your operating system. It's informing the agent here, hey, look out for these event IDs. If they're present, read them and forward them into the platform. The agent also sends logs in real time. As soon as it is written, it will be read and sent into the NeQter. And then lastly, the agent caches logs. So if there's ever a loss of connectivity between the agent and the NeQter server, they will cache. Upon reconnection, they will send. So that's everything there with the agent. It's very light because it's read-only. It's in sending text files, essentially, those event IDs. There's going to be no impact to the operating system it's installed on or your network traffic. Outside of that, there's a couple other things that we can turn on from a monitoring standpoint. We can turn on metrics. So just an example, I'll just close this and go to an active PC right here. Metrics is going to be system utilization metrics. I can track RAM, CPU, disk, network utilization, file system utilization, as well as system uptime. Just really getting a pulse check on that asset. So you can turn that on for or off for any assets that you like. Outside of that, we also support pulling in, for example, if you have a software writing to an audit log file, well, great. You can put that file path in here and track those line changes to that file. So that's everything for Windows, and Linux and Mac are going to be the same. For Linux, we can do audit demonitoring. We have both Debian and Red Hat based architecture agents, and we also do support Macs as well. We can turn all those things on as such. So you create and establish the groups, and then you can move agents to and from each of the groups individually or in bulk. Once we move an agent, it will absorb those settings and start pulling those log types into the platform. So that's everything with agents. I'm going to skip into the logging area just to show you what these logs will look like and then how they get visualized on the dashboards. And then we'll round out what it looks like from the other input types that we have. So we'll jump over here to Discover. So Discover is really going to be, as I call it, the meat and potatoes when it comes to data in the platform. Everything streaming in gets organized into its own index. The indexes are grouped by vendor type. So everything Windows, every Windows OS is going to be unified under the singular Windows index. So all of those different log event types that I just turned on to pull in are feeding into this index here. And I will always have the original raw log in its message field, so the same formatting. So if you, for example, like to look at Windows Event Viewer and those event IDs, well, you're going to have that same format right here. We take those formatted logs, we break them down and parse them out across the different fields and data types to allow us to more easily search and, more importantly, visualize and alert and report on these events. So everything gets pushed into here and then, of course, gets visualized on different dashboards that we have. We have a lot of different dashboards built out for different vendors, such as everything Windows, everything Microsoft, and I'll get into the other inputs shortly, like when it comes to the firewall side, for example, or different APIs. So everything is already broken down and visualized in here, which allows us to click around and filter down or get clued into certain, whether it be outcomes or users or severity levels or event types. So that is the three-step process of sending logs in, getting them stored and indexed, and then visualizing them in here. So we will come back to this area, but we're going to jump into the settings area to round out the other input types and the other methods that we have to grab logs and pull logs into the platform. All right, so moving along to settings area here. And now going into inputs is where we can configure the other methods of logging. So right here, it opens up into Syslog inputs. So if I want to add a new Syslog input, number one, of course, I'm going to go into whatever that source is. So we'll say, for example, we have a SonicWall firewall. So of course, you'll go into your SonicWall firewall in its settings, logging or the syslog area, and you will put in the IP of your NeQter, the static IP of your NeQter, and we keep it simple. You'll send it to port 514 or syslog. We also do support ingest from port 6514 or secure syslog. So we'll give this a label of new SonicWall, and we'll just put a dummy address in here. And we'll go to manufacturer where we can find SonicWall on the dropdown. So as you can see, we have quite a few different name brand or major vendor firewalls supported here, or some other ingestion too. Like for example, we support integration with Sentinel-1, the EDR software that sends actually via secure syslog. Or additionally, we are able to pull from CrowdStrike, EDR. Same deal, they have a syslog method of export that we can pull into NeQter. And one other thing I'll just call out here, we do have integration with Prevail that does additionally have a syslog export method. If a vendor isn't listed on here, that doesn't mean that we can't pull those logs in and parse them. We just have tailor-made and parsed support for the ones on this list here. But sometimes you might have something that maybe is a little less interesting, like a switch, where that would just go into this other designation here. We grab those syslogs, pull them into the quote-unquote other designation, and we can parse, search, and visualize those logs as well. But we're talking about SonicWall, so we'll select SonicWall here, hit save, and that is it, the two-step process. So of course, if it's been set up that SonicWall device has been set up to send, then it will come in here and be green. It will be marked as receiving. Obviously, this one doesn't exist, so it says not receiving right here. So we have an indicator that will designate if something has been seen within 24 hours. We also have the option to turn on down detection so that we can be informed, or we can get an email alert sent to inform you that, hey, we have not seen this input within the time frame specified in the down detection. So that is how we pull in anything syslog. The last couple methods that we are able to grab logs is going to be API based. So again, namely, we support Google Workspace as well as Microsoft 365. So we can grab those different, that different information. And when it comes to something like Google Workspace, it's a two-step process to essentially you'll be prompted by Google to allow the app use, and you'll get a string that you can put in here to authenticate. For 365, it is a three-step process of going up into your Azure, so going up into Azure AD and creating an app, registering an app rather, creating a secret for that app, and then granting read-only permission access to the activity feed API. That's how we're going to be grabbing those logs. So take those 3 steps, complete them, come back here and punch in your tenant ID, your client ID, and your client secret, and then you can turn on the different log types that you would wish to retrieve. So we can pull everything from Azure AD events, so anything to do with Azure and login and access and users is going to be tracked. Administrative events as well. We also can grab Exchange as well as data loss prevention events, SharePoint events, and then Microsoft being Microsoft, everything else kind of gets shoehorned into this general events designation. So that's going to be things like OneDrive, Teams, security, a couple other things shoehorned right in there. So I'm sure your eyes went to subscription plan type over here. So enterprise or business, or i.e. commercial, is of course supported. But if we're talking about compliance, CMMC in the defense space, GCC and GCC High are very important. And of course, NeQter can pull from those just fine. If you are an organization where you have elected to maintain your commercial tenant, but then also have an additional separate tenant for a subset of users in GCC or GCC High, we support the ability to pull from multiple 365 tenants. So that's what you can see here. So that rounds out all the methods we're able to pull. We do have support for Cisco Meraki Cloud and Cisco Secure Endpoint, or AMP. We will be adding additional APIs in future, but that's what we're working with currently. So navigating back into the, we'll go into dashboards, and then we'll take a detour back into Discover. So when it comes to dashboards, as I already mentioned, we have a bunch of different supported dashboards. Actually, if I click on this dashboard link here, here's our full list. I have everyone turned on for my demo system. If I go into, since we were talking about SonicWall, everything is feeding into SonicWall and being summarized in here. So if you have multiple SonicWall routers, well, you can of course stream multiple routers right in here, and everything gets summarized, either whether it be from a country standpoint or IP or users, is all getting summarized in here. I can click and interact with and manipulate anything that I want to create any filters or do any geographical based queries. I'm actually going to go into just to show you. So NeQter, we actually use Google Workspace. We don't use 365 as much. We do it for some things. But just to kind of show you some real data, going into this Google Workspace here, we can see our different users and their logins. If there were any failures, any login failures, they would actually be listed right here in this little chart area. But if I scroll down, I can see, again, failed logins, summarized, successful logins. And again, this is the login activity dashboard. I have other dashboards for like Google Drive or administrative events. I have the same thing for 365, whether I want to see admin events or Azure AD events or specifically SharePoint events. Very, very useful information. So I scroll down here, I can see where all my users are logging in. Now, I bet you if I went back a little further, if I go to the top right, we're looking at last 7 days. If I wanted to do last 30 and update here, we have a lot more. Yeah, so we have a couple login failures, and I can see if some of them. So actually, I assure you, I'm not a risky action, but for whatever reason, I think so. I am based actually in Rhode Island, and I had drove up to Boston the other day, and I had some login events in Boston, and this was flagged by Google. So I can see, I'm not typically there, so it flagged it as suspicious. So I can do geographical based queries. So if I wanted to draw a grid, just draw a square over this area here, it will drill down for me kind of this let me just fit the data bounds here. I can see exactly where people are logging in from, from home or logging in from the office. At the bottom of every dashboard, we're going to have the full logs in their entirety broken and parsed down at the bottom. So anytime that I create a filter, and this will allow us to kind of go back to the discover area. So let me do this. Let me filter down for Rhode Island. I want to know about events that are based in Rhode Island. So I'll remove that filter. I'm also going to look at successful logins. We'll add that filter. So there's a couple different ways I can add filters leveraging NeQter here. I can go in and click on a graph or chart. I can go up to the top and select the time with kind of rigid specific times, or I can draw a square over a timeline, filter that down. We'll go back, we'll reset to 30 days. I can select any of, if there's any drop downs, I can select drop downs. If there's any tables, I can select in the table. But more importantly, I can also do a textual based query up at the top. And I don't need to be an expert in querying. If I have like an email or a username in mind, I can just type that in and search it. So there's my email right here. If maybe I didn't have the full email, or I just wanted to be very quick about it and type in my first 3 letters of my name and put asterisks, well, that will return the same event as well. So you can get very, very detailed if you want to, either in the text-based queries or in the, if we wanted to go into these filters here, I can modify them further. So right now this is toggled. I can disable it, of course. I'll re-enable it. I can have a negative-based query, so I can say, you know what? Right now I'm looking at Rhode Island. I want to see everything but Rhode Island. So it changes it to quote unquote not. If I go and edit this further, and actually just to show you on the map here, we're in the Massachusetts area, we're in some other states, everything that is not Rhode Island. So if I go up back to the top and I click on this and edit this filter, I can change a lot more. I can make it a list, so make it is one of, and then I can say is one of or is not one of, and then mention Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, or just to see if that value exists, if it's present. Has anyone logged in from Rhode Island? So you can, with NeQter, you can be a novice, a low-level user, or using it occasionally, or you can use it from a much more powerful standpoint. You can be a power user of NeQter. Even further, just to show you what some of our power users do, if I go into edit this filter and then click further into edit the query DSL, you can get very detailed. You can go right in and change up the query language here. So what I'm going to do is, just to show you, kind of moving into our next area, we talked about getting logs in here. We talked about having them get listed out and organized in the index area. We looked at the dashboards, how they can be visualized, how we can filter. Now we're going to see what those filters can do for us even further. So we're going to pin this, which means, we really like this filter and we want to take it with us. Now we're going to go to the Discover area, and this filter isn't working because we're looking at the Windows index. So we're going to go to the appropriate index. We're going to go to the G Suite index here. So now we have those results because we have filtered down and are in the right index. So all of the login success, we have that highlighted. We can also see, particularly, I'm sorry, we have not Rhode Island. I'm actually going to reverse that. We're going to include. So now we have Rhode Island filtered and login success filtered and highlighted, which is nice. Very, very easy to see. We can save this. So I'm going to save this now, new save search. I'm going to save it as successful Google logins in Rhode Island. Confirm. So there's a few things that we can do with this saved search. So saved searches are the backbone of the NeQter alerting and reporting function. So we can click on alerts right here and say, you know what, I actually want to turn this saved search into a alert profile. So we're going to go down to S since it's alphabetical here. Scroll, scroll, scroll. We have successful Google logins in Rhode Island. Now we can set this alert up to have different occurrence thresholds, different severities. Maybe this is a low level, so I'll mark it as a low level severity. Occurrence threshold right now is set up to every time it happens within 2 minutes, I'll be alerted. Well, that might generate a lot of alerts. So I might want to say, you know what? If there's 10 successful logins within 2 minutes or 1 minute, that's a lot. A single user should not have that many, because I'll want to group it by actor.email, which is for Google Workspace. So a user shouldn't successfully log in 10 times in 5 minutes. That's suspicious. Maybe actually that is suspicious. We want to mark it as a high. So I can further say I would like to receive that alert directly to my email associated with my user. Now, when it comes to alerts, and we'll jump to that area in a bit, by default, if I don't receive an email, well, that alert's still going to trigger. It's just going to show up in the timeline area under reports. Otherwise, I can receive or opt in to which emails I would like to get from NeQter for different event types. So that's what setting up an alert from a saved search looks like. I can also furthermore set up a custom report from a saved search. So I do that. I go up over the top here. I hit this play button and we'll go into custom report. Now, I'm sure you see a lot of these different report types here. These are for the other areas of the tool that we'll get to shortly. One of the ones that help with SIEM or summarize SIEM are going to be the general system report, as well as I'll actually just run one real quick for the last day. Run a report, general system report, summarizing different events on the NeQter. And then the health and maintenance report is more of a detailed support related report, but still helpful nonetheless. But I'm focused on custom reports. So if I wanted to make a custom report, we'll say HTML, we will label this the same, successful Google logins in Rhode Island. And we will look at the last week. Now, we can group this report by, if we wanted from an organizational standpoint, we can group by a particular, let me select the appropriate save search. So we'll go scroll, go down to successful Google logins in Rhode Island. Great. So if I want to group by a field, we're just gonna create this report as is, just so we can see what we're looking at. We'll do the last day so we don't get too many. So we'll run this report. Now, one thing to note about this report is since we didn't add any customization, we're getting every single field that is within that that index. So, and how can we prevent that? So I did the last day. We didn't get too many results. We'll run this again. Now, the last week we got quite a few. So as you can see, we had different users log in, and I might want to organize by that. So that's where grouping comes into play. Grouping by a field. So we'll group by actor.email. So if we run this report again, I actually think so for this one we need to do it from an Excel spreadsheet standpoint, so it can group and tab at the bottom. So let me do that real quick. Run report, and now I get to save this. Let me open that up so I can show you what the grouping looks like. So we'll grab this Excel and open up on my other screen here, and we'll open it up. So now this is grouped by user. So at the bottom here we have 4 different users that logged in Rhode Island, for example. And that's how the grouping works. Now, additionally, again, I have a lot of results and a lot of data for those results. I might want to make it easier on the eyes for me. So we're gonna close this, and we can organize our reports better in this area right here. So if I expand this, there's a couple ways I can do this. I like to do it this way. You can either use them on the side here where it says available fields, and I can click add. Now what that will do, if I add, it will make columns for me. So I can essentially make my own table. That's what it's going to allow me to do. I personally like to do it from an individual log, so then I can see what types of information that I'm dealing with. So I might like, let's see, IP might be good for me. Username might be good for me. Login type maybe. We'll just do login, and we'll do user, and and we'll do IP. So I can now, if I make that same report and it cached, so I don't have to do all that work again, and I check this very important, use save search columns. I run this report. We'll do HTML so I can see instant. Run report. So it pulled those two. Oh, silly me. Let me resave this. Resave, confirm save. Go back up over here, and we won't group it this time. Run the report. So instead of everything, I get just the ones that I want to see: events, actor, IP, and the associated timestamp. I might need to add an additional timestamp field to round that out. But that's essentially what the report is going to allow me to do. So now going into the reports tab where I can see alerts. So these summarized alerts are all right here. I can see a particular alert. I can open it up, read the summary, and I could see the log that contributed to that alert. So if alert fires, I can review it on this timeline here. I can dismiss an event. I can filter down and say, you know what, I only want to see high related events, maybe. If I click on this medium here, I click the eyeball to view it. If I click view search, well, it's going to take me right back into the it's going to take me right back and see pinned here. So this is the search. It's taking me right back into the exact index that I need. So this particular was a FortiGate VPN field login. And now I can see those results summarized as such. So going back to reports, alerts, they trigger, they show up on here as a summary, or I can, of course, receive an email that alert transpired. Alerts are configured right here. I can create an alert from a saved search or from a template that NeQter already has built out. Any alert that is configured will get listed out right here, so I can go back and edit them in future if I need to. Reports, we go right here. So there's two methods of how I can create a report, either on demand, much like I was doing, clicking on that play button in the top right corner, or I can schedule a report to be recurring. Whether a report is run on demand, and when you run them on demand, I'll just open this up again. I'll just go into this report here. You can email it to yourself. So as soon as it generates, it shoots you an email. Or, of course, if I configure and schedule a new report, so this is the schedule view, and I want it to run weekly, and I want to add in my email or multiple emails to receive this report, I can run it now or set up the schedule to run weekly. And regardless of, so if I download a report and I delete it, or I get an email of that report and I delete it, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I had kept that. Well, the good news is NeQter is keeping it right here. So all those reports that I just ran through, successful Google logins in Rhode Island, I can see all of those results right here. They were saved, they were recorded, they are maintained right here for me to pull up and re-download or just review them. And the good news about that is I can filter and search for a particular report type. So if it's a custom report or one of the various defaults that we have, or a particular format, or if I remove both of those filter types, I can keyword search right here. So if I know one that I would like to see again, like the one I just created, I can search it right here. And that's going to be important. So if we're talking from a compliance standpoint and you want to prove over time recurring important events, such as, for example, recently created users, in Active Directory, well, I can set up that report to run once a month, and the reports remain in here as of today. They are indefinitely stored. They take up such little space that we've chosen to store them indefinitely. So and we'll get into kind of rounding out the SIEM, talking about log retention. The reports will outlive any log rotation or retention that is set within NeQter. So if you ran a report in February, well, you can find it right here, call it up, and re-download it and show it as a proof point or as an artifact. So that's very, very helpful. So to round out the last area of SIEM, we'll go into settings. And this is where we can establish, okay, well, how long are we maintaining the NeQter logs for? So there's two ways that we store logs. First and foremost is visualize log data. So what we were looking at on the dashboards and in the discovery area, all of the logs are visualized logs. So that is what this first setting is right up here. So right now I'm keeping 35 days for the visualized logs. The other method, of course, is going to be archive log data. So it compresses it down, reduces the footprint, saves storage, and by default, the visualized and the archive are retained locally. So that NeQter VM or hardware appliance that you're maintaining, everything is stored locally on that system. Now you can, of course, choose to push those logs off via SMB to a file share. So when you're pushing the file share, the archive is lifted off and sent, and that subsequent storage can now be used for visualized log data. So if you wanted to keep 30 days of live and 180 days of cold archive storage, you can do that. Or if you're kicking it off to an external archive, the only limitation is, of course, the associated storage that you have with that archive. So day 181, for me, those logs will rotate out. Now, the good news is with the archive logs, as long as I have access to them either in a live connection or if I store them somewhere else, I can upload, I can drag and drop them back in here, or if I have a live connect, I can restore those logs back in. I can pick the full day, or maybe I just need to see G Suite events, for example. I can restore that back in. It will, and I'll just do that here. I'll select restore, G Suite login, restoring indices, success. And what it's going to prompt me for next is when would I like to rotate this back out? So I can select the day that it gets removed from the visualized logs again. And you can restore and rotate out and restore and rotate out as many times as you would like. So that is everything when it comes to SIEM. We talked about grabbing logs in from multiple sources, agent, Syslog, and API. We looked at how those logs visualize in the discover area and how they get parsed, broken down, and are searchable, how they get visualized in the dashboard tool where they can be parsed and queried and broken down, and then how those filters that we create from our queries can be saved and turned into alerts or custom reports, and that's going to be in the reports area.